Who dominates the beef industry? The United States, with its massive cattle herds and unmatched production power? Or Australia, known for its premium, grass-fed beef that's loved around the world? You might think the answer is obvious, but the truth is way more surprising than you'd expect. Stick around, because we're about to dive into the numbers, the strategies, and the fascinating differences between these two beef titans. And trust me, you won't want to miss what sets them apart. Let's start with the basics. Cattle numbers. The US is home to a whopping 89.3 million head of cattle as of 2023. That's more than 3 times the size of Australia's cattle herd, which sits at around 25 million head. But here's the catch. Size isn't everything. While the US dominates in sheer volume, Australia's beef industry punches way above its weight, exporting a huge portion of its production to premium global markets. So, how do these countries stack up in terms of value and production? Let's dig deeper. The US and Australia have very different approaches to raising cattle. In the US, the focus is on intensive feedlot operations. Most cattle are finished on grain, resulting in the rich, marbled steaks that Americans love. This system allows the US to produce a staggering 28.3 billion pounds of beef annually, making up about 19% of global beef production. That's right, nearly 1/5 of the world's beef comes from the US alone. Now, contrast that with Australia. Here, the emphasis is on grass-fed beef, with cattle raised in wide-open pastures. While Australia produces a smaller amount, about 2.2 million tonnes of beef and veal per year, it's the quality that sets them apart. Australian beef is prized for its natural lean flavour, and it dominates premium export markets, especially in Asia. In fact, Australia exports 67% of its beef production, with an export value of 11.3 billion Australian dollars in 2023. That's a huge chunk compared to the US, which exports just 12.5% of its production. So, what about the money? The US beef industry is worth a jaw-dropping $88.4 billion as of 2023, and that number is expected to climb to $97.3 billion by 2025. Beef accounts for about 17% of total US agricultural cash receipts, making it one of the most valuable sectors in American farming. Australia's beef industry, while smaller in scale, still packs a punch. It's valued at around 23.27 billion Australian dollars in 2024, with projections to hit 26.57 billion Australian dollars by 2025. And here's the kicker. Australia's focus on premium markets means their beef commands higher prices per kilogram compared to the US. Here's where things get really interesting. The market focus. In the US, it's all about domestic consumption. Americans love beef, and the US is one of the largest consumers of beef globally. The majority of US production is eaten right at home, with exports being a smaller, but still important, part of the industry. Australia, on the other hand, is all about exports. Countries like Japan, South Korea, and China are huge buyers of Australian beef, and their reputation for delivering high-quality grass-fed meat has secured them a spot as one of the world's leading beef exporters. Of course, no industry is without its challenges. In the US, the feedlot system is efficient, but it comes at a cost. Rising grain prices and growing consumer demand for grass-fed and sustainably raised beef are putting pressure on the traditional system. Meanwhile, Australia faces its own set of challenges, like severe droughts, that can drastically impact cattle numbers. In fact, the Australian herd has only recently recovered from years of drought, which had reduced cattle populations to historic lows. But the resilience of Australian ranchers and their ability to adapt to changing conditions is nothing short of remarkable. So, who wins the beef battle? It all depends on how you measure success. The US dominates in scale and production, feeding millions of people domestically and abroad while maintaining a massive, multi-billion-dollar industry. Australia, with its smaller herd size, focuses on quality over quantity, earning a reputation for premium beef that's sought after all over the world. Both countries are giants in their own right, but they play to their strengths in very different ways. What does the future hold for these two beef powerhouses? As global demand for beef grows, both countries are facing new pressures to balance sustainability, efficiency, and consumer preferences. Will the US continue to dominate in sheer volume? Will Australia expand its premium markets even further? One thing's for sure, the beef industry is evolving, and both nations are leading the charge. Now that you know the ins and outs of the US and Australian beef industries, who do you think is the true king of beef? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the fascinating world of agriculture. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.